Welcome back. You're still watching Nile Cruise, and we start with our first segment and a political segment. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has addressed a message of appreciation and apology to North Sinai citizens, calling on them not to allow anybody to drive a wedge between them and the rest of the Egyptian people who are indivisible. The president said more measures will be taken for evacuating the border area, adding compensations which are paid to Sinai residents could reach £1 billion. This came in a statement on the sidelines of the Air Force exercise, in which more than 250 aircrafts of all types in cooperation with units of paratroops, shock force and the central military zone took part within the Badr 2014 maneuver. We'll be discussing those news and topics and more with Dr. Hussein Shiriba, the professor of political science. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us, Professor.
How are you, sir?
So let's start first with the maneuver, the Badr 2014 maneuver. What is its importance in your point of view?
Well, it's important, first of all, it's in Sinai. It's in Egypt. It's telling a message directly and indirectly. The first directly one, to those who wants to have unstable condition in the Middle East, guys, there's an army, and it's a strong army. Nobody could defeat them. We are number 9 worldwide, so nobody can push anymore, because Egypt have gained its freedom after the 30th of June, the 3rd of July. So guys, this is Egypt today is talking. The indirect, it's telling all the tiny figures, and I intend to say tiny figures because some of them, they name themselves Muslims, and they are not Muslims, and whatever their tribe is, whatever their name is, and they are just a bunch of gangs being created by others, and I prefer others also because others knows their names, whether out of the border of Egypt or out of the Mediterranean or out of the ocean side. So the 3 people, they know themselves. The indirect, it's important for us, and for the Egyptians is giving them another signal. Don't worry, the armies wake up, he's there, he's for you, he's not against you, he will defend everyone who wants to step into your land. The same thing, if you remember an old history, and you go back to very old history, when Amosis have defeated the Hittites. That's another thing you should remember this. When Muhammad, because Amosis have kicked all these invaders who wants to stay in Egypt and take the value of Egypt to themselves. Muhammad Ali have done the same thing, and he had done it for the Ottomans, which Erdogan is trying to accomplish something for himself from this. But you have to know that his army is mercenaries. They were mercenaries. But the army of Egypt is Egyptians. And the son of Muhammad Ali, Ibrahim Pasha, was on the border of Turkey conquering the Ottomans. And that's very recently, that you're talking about 1805.
Yes.
So lots of messages have been sent, and to tell also our neighbors who have stand with us, the Gulf area, we are with you. And you have a very strong Arab army, which is the Egyptian army. The Egyptian army is an Arab army also.
So there is also this question that comes, it has been a great maneuver, but again the latest attack that happened in Sinai on the army is sending an opposite message internally. So what you're trying to say is that the maneuver is important, that it delivers a message to the entire world and internally to the people, that is making them confident about the capability of the Egyptian army. But at the same time, the attack came, to send a different message or an opposite message.
Well, there is a thief is always everywhere in the entire world, and he go and go rob a bank or steal something. Okay, it's not so. But is it this attack is from an army? It is something like a very tiny thing, and this is why they are doing this with another view and another. But there is something else you should be aware of it. Just a few hours ago, they have attacked the meeting of some of that group in south of Sinai, and they captured 19 of them, and they were gonna go into military court. And this is what I like out of it. Military court for these people are important. Why? Because it is so quick.
But again, this is a reactive mode. It still remains to be a reactive mode. There was a lot of lives. That was, the death of several army soldiers that happened, and it's happening even ever since August. If you remember, it's a sequence of incidents that is happening to the Egyptian army, and some of them is actually happening without attacks. Some of them is happening due to normal road accidents. So the question here is, who is responsible or who to be blamed for the continuous, bombing and terrorist attacks that is happening in Egypt today?
The system we have over here is excellent, but there are some people who doesn't like to obey the system. The army is doing his maximum. When he evacuated these things, some of the people who have been evacuated, and it's not only too much, it's few, you can count them. They were allowing this, but right now, the majority of the people in Sinai agreed that for their own safety, for the safety of their country, which is Egypt, they evacuate. So the measurements is being changed. The other party, which is whether it's the Palestinians or from Qatar or from Turkey, you cannot stop them. They are crooks. So you can't stop a crook. A crook is always a crook. He will try to do anything to sneak around on you and go on. What happened in England?
This is not happening in European countries, for example. There was a lot. If you remember, you definitely know, sir, about the ETA, for example, in Spain, and the terrorist attacks that used to happen in Spain. Today we are not seeing this. We could also speak about another version, which is Ireland, and what used to be happening in the terrorist attacks and the division that was there in the society in Ireland, and now it's no more there. So there has been a lot of, I know it took a lot of years, but again, there was gap bridging at that time. Do you think the current status or the current path is closing this gap, or is actually doing the opposite?
No, it is closing, but when you want to close it to the maximum, you need to have the trial judgment in a different way. You have to give punishment, not within years,
yes,
and not in a normal court. Normal court, you're in a big war. You're not in a normal war. A common war, it's worse than the war between Egypt and Israel.
Yes.
So, because your enemy is unknown, and it could be anyone from anywhere.
And we shouldn't allow anything that's regarding, so civilians are very important, but the army, again, it is untouchable. It should be untouchable. So an army soldier is very, important and valuable to everyone.
The army soldier and the Egyptian is untouchable, both. because the army soldier is from the Egypt, and the Egyptians are Egyptians. So all of them, they are untouchable, and they should not, whether you're from the army or a civilian, both of them on the same category. But you need to implement a very tough, severe law. When something is happened, it shouldn't exceed a week. The trial judgment should not exceed a week.
Yes.
And that's it. And we should not have any excuse for anyone. Egypt is a great country, and it's not a violent country, and the Egyptians are not violent at all. All Egyptians are wonderful. You watch them.
But then, Professor Hussein, there comes, this, dilemma. Trials within 1 week, but again, you've seen yesterday the UN and the Human Rights Council, and there was a lot of concerns by a lot of countries around the world. So if we're going to take this path of the 1 week trial, the military trials, don't you think this is also against what is happening all around the world and what the concerns that I'm trying to play the devil's advocate? I want to get your view, because this is the view of the world, so we can't go the opposite way.
Okay. What's a human right means? Human right is the human right for every person lives on that land, whatever the land name, whether he's an army or a civilian, right?
Yes, exactly.
So if you go and kill an army, you're talking to me about human rights, so you have
Absolutely
already
not.
Yeah, you have broken this, so you should not talk about it. So anyone who is going to break this, Egypt have to take a severe action. This is no excuse. And the United States,
it has to be part of the law.
This is part of the law, and it goes without saying. You go out of Egypt, you go to any country, name it, whether UK or US or any part in Europe, and you do a violent action, you are going to be punished. There is no excuse in punishment. They are not interested to punish you, but you are the one who created the punishment for yourself.
Yes, yes, I get your point. So the government issued a decree stating that criminal acts against vital facilities, which include stations, power networks and tower gas and oil fields, rail lines, road networks and bridges will be referred to military court also as per the text of the decree. What are the expected outcome of this decree? It is also moving with the line of thought that you were just presenting now.
Do you mean about involving the army in this?
So, yeah, exactly. It is going to be a military court if you are having any sort of criminal acts against facilities, railroads, oil fields.
When
crucial points.
Look, when you go and break the law, and you try to damage something or kill somebody, whether he's an Egyptian or a civilian or a military guy, any one of these things, you are breaking the law. If he's a civilian, what's the difference between a civilian and a military guy? Nothing. Because this is his son or this is his brother. There's nothing. But you are doing an action in unstable conditions, in unstable manners, and you want to destroy, your aim is to destroy the peaceful way of Egypt.
Yes.
So this is the point. The point is not, the military is very speedy and very fast, and it's implementing law also. Both of them, they are implementing law. So, but this is the speedy one.
Right. Finally, Professor Hussein Shuriba, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. It has been great to have you with all the insights.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I'll be moving now to the upcoming story and returning back tomorrow.